I'm currently sitting 7k in the world. I have 3 free transfers this week. I still have my limitless and wildcard intact. In today's video, we're going to take a look at my matchday free team selection and potential transfer strategy. So let's jump straight into it. So guys, this is my provisional team for match day 3 without any transfers. We will cover my transfer strategy shortly, but for now, let's take a look at my provisional team, have a look at injuries, in form, out form players. We're going to start with my goalkeepers today, and obviously Kovar, a PSV goalkeeper, he has a home match against Napoli. Now, again, a lot of people will laugh at this goalkeeper pairing. I do sometimes too when I look. I've not had a single clean sheet from them yet. In fact, I think 3 points was the highlight of both of their careers in my team this season. But Kovar does face Napoli this week. Napoli, the last time I checked, were without Højlund, who was injured, and also McTominay. So they are kind of light in attack, and that was kind of telling in their recent loss to Torino in Serie A, which they ended 1-0. So I have some hope that Kovar could potentially keep a clean sheet this week, although I'm not entirely convinced. So coming on for Kovar, if Kovar does fail to pick up a return against Napoli, is obviously Jaros, the £4 million, €4 million, Ajax goalkeeper. Will he ever keep a clean sheet? Who knows? But he played Chelsea this week. Obviously, Chelsea are without João Pedro because João Pedro picked up a red card recently. They're also without Cole Palmer. They're also potentially without Enzo Fernandez. So looking quite blunt. Obviously, Chelsea have loads of great attackers. Ajax are yet to keep a clean sheet. I can't remember the last time Ajax kept a clean sheet in the league or in the Champions League. Actually, I don't think they have kept a clean sheet in the Champions League so far. But I'm no plans to change my goalkeepers this week. I'm quite happy with this until I wildcard. Well, I say quite happy. I'm not, but I'm going to keep it as it is. I think it's a waste of transfers using them on goalkeepers. So let's now take a look at my defence. So this is my defence. You can see that straight away I've got 2 red flags, but let's firstly cover the players that are okay. Dumfries slightly lucky with his goal in matchday 2. Seems to be the kind of underperforming wing back at the moment in comparison to Di Marco at Inter, who is, in very good form at the moment, 4 attacking returns in his last 5 matches, but still very happy to own, Dumfries. He seems nailed in under Chivu. He's going to keep playing. He's also got 2 good fixtures. Starting with USG this week, he could even be potentially a kind of rogue captaincy pick on Tuesday. So I really like Dumfries, and I have no plans to get rid of him. Although if I was wildcarding, I probably would pick DeMarco. Calafiori, he failed to start in matchday 2, which is fine. We expected him to get the odd rest. But he's only 4.5 million. I expect him to start this week because it is a reasonably tough game against Atleti. 2 Arsenal clean sheets now makes one of them the best defences in the competition. Obviously, they're keeping a lot of clean sheets in the Premier League as well. I think it's 5 now, joint top. So I'm very happy to own, obviously, Calafiori, who has attacking threat as well. 3 attacking returns, I think, this season in the Premier League. Now, we've also got, in the mix, yes, we've got 2 injured players. We also have Pedro Porro. Now, Tottenham haven't really been keeping clean sheets lately. It's not been looking good for them. They've been playing reasonably weak opposition as well, which just isn't ideal. But I've no plans to get rid of him this week. If I was wildcarding, then I probably would. But, with so many fires elsewhere, I think I'm going to keep Pedro Porro. He is also capable of an attacking return as well, right? Now, starting with my red flags, obviously Bellanova, I brought him in last week. He was injured and taken off at half time. Probably one of the worst transfers I've ever made, or at least, the outcome-wise, just wasn't ideal at all. Now, Bellanova and Howson are in a kind of similar sort of scenario where they're not going to play this week. They're very, very, well, it's almost 99% certainty. I'm also almost that certain that none of them will play or feature this week. So both are issues. I think it's just a case of if you want to make one transfer, it's just a case of who would you want long term. And I think the answer to that question is probably Howson, even with arguably tougher fixtures short term. But as soon as he's back, I think they're both going to be back in matchday 4. But who is definitely going to start in matchday 4? I think the answer to that question will be Howson. So if you've got both, I would probably potentially look at keeping Howson, but it kind of depends on budget, right? Not everyone has that 0.5 extra. Some people do, some people don't. But I think, those 2 players are defenders that I'm going to be looking at selling this week. I think with Bellanova, he is an easier keep because he's only 4 million. It wouldn't be a massive kind of, loss if he didn't play this week. I don't think there's actually many good clean sheet opportunities this week. Clean sheet potential across the board in match day 3 doesn't actually look fantastic. So, going one kind of defender short it doesn't feel like it's the end of the world. It feels okay. So if you've got limited transfers, then I would probably only sell one of these and make your moves. Use your other transfers in attack. So that is my defense so far. You can see two potential issues, two players who could potentially be leaving my team, and we'll cover them shortly in my transfer plans. But let's first take a look at my midfield. Now, I don't have an ideal midfield this week. If I was to wildcard or use the limitless, I would have probably two of these midfielders. Now, let's talk about, firstly, discuss the players who are staying in my team and I wouldn't get rid of. One of them is Michael Elise. He's just come off the back of a goal. He got a haul in match day 2. Bayern have another great fixture against Club Brugge. They've also scored like 3 goals, at least 3 goals in 8 of the last 10 matches, which is pretty insane, isn't it, for a team? So I think you have to keep your Bayern players this week, and then obviously next week, they go into that tough run of PSG and Arsenal, which is a bit awkward. So again, keep them this week 100%. Elise is definitely a shoe-in on a limitless or wild card or whatever you want to call it. He should be in your teams this week. And I think that probably goes for Anthony Gordon as well. Newcastle haven't really convinced in the Premier League, but Gordon has in terms of output in the Champions League. He scored 3 goals now, in 2 matches. So 2 penalties in his previous match against USG, a goal against Barcelona, a nice home fixture against Benfica this week, So I'm really happy to own Anthony Gordon, Again, I want to see more in terms of open play from them in general, but quite happy to keep him. Now, on to players I'm not happy with. Let's first kind of look at Salah. Obviously, really, really expensive. One of the players I'm looking to get rid of, actually. Liverpool have lost 4 or 5 matches on the bounce now in all competitions. Things aren't looking right. Salah's not looking right. He's not really doing it statistically either. So at 10.5 million, he's just too much money it's weird. You can't spend that much money on a player who's just not doing anything at all. So he is one of the few players I'm potentially looking at getting rid of this week. I also not keen on Xavi Simons. Obviously, he's starting number 10 for Spurs lately. Spurs already covered the fact they haven't really been that convincing, but neither's he. I think he's got like 1 assist since he's actually joined Tottenham from Leipzig, which is crazy when you think about it. I know things haven't clicked. I know Tottenham are overperforming, but they have got a good fixture against Monaco this week, who keep conceding like 2 or 3 goals in most of their matches. So I will hold. He's probably going to start. Fingers crossed he does start. We just never know at this point because they have so many attackers. Richarlison didn't actually start in the latest Premier League match, so who knows? Ideally, I wouldn't have Xavi in my team if I was wildcarding or limitless in, but because I've got limited transfers and fires elsewhere, he has to stay. Now, I've also got Pedro Goncalves. I've got nothing major against him other than the fact that he played 120 minutes in a cup game in the last match, and he's basically made of glass, which is an absolute nightmare. So seeing that he played 120 minutes was far from ideal. Would I be surprised if he didn't start this week? Not at all. I wouldn't be surprised at all. We'll get news closer to the deadline, of course. But he is another player who, I probably wouldn't have in my team if I was using, a limitless or a wild card. So that is my midfield. Salah, biggest underperformer and obviously costs a lot of money. Xavi and Goncalves, will they even start? So they are 3 more issues that I have, potential issues that I have in my team. So now let's take a look at my forward line. So forwards, before we take a look at my transfer plans, let's take a look at forwards. You can see straight away, once again, I have another red flag, and that is Thuram, who is injured. He got injured before the international break, and he is still injured. Now, the issue with Thuram is, yes, he plays USG this week and he won't play. I think a lot of people are probably potentially looking at Kairat for a return, and maybe, should we hold him for Kairat after that? But I would say absolutely not. So basically, Inter, after match day 3, they have 3 Serie A games in a row within a 7-day period, and then match day 4 is immediately after that. So a very, very difficult run for Inter in terms of how many games they've got, and they've also got 4 playable strikers, including Thuram. So even if Thuram does get back fit for that Kairat game, there's no telling he's actually going to start. In fact, they'll probably manage his minutes back into the game. So And that goes for buying into players as well, buying into attackers. I wouldn't buy any of them on the basis that, they have so many strikers. If you bought one, there's no necessarily, there's no guarantee that they're actually going to play in the matches after that. And that is the issue with Thuram. So I think he's a must sell this week. He's not going to play. He's not going to feature. He wasn't in the squad in their latest match. Now, two players, very easy. I think, yes, Mbappe has Juventus and he also has, I think it's Liverpool after this or Man City. But I just think taking into account his form, he's been relentless this season. He's been absolutely vital to Real Madrid. And he's been spearheading that attack for a while now on penalties too, while Vinicius has been out of form. So a lot of their attack is down to Mbappe. And he's already got 5 goals and 2 Player of the Match awards in just like 2 matches. And Kane is also probably arguably even more essential, even more relentless. He's 20 plus goals for club and country already, and we're only in like October, which is pretty mad. So he's been in relentless form, plays Club Bruges, probably the standout captaincy option on Wednesday. So not much really to talk about in terms of my forward line, apart from the fact that Thuram is an issue. Now let's take a look at my potential transfer strategy this week. So guys, before we get into my transfer plans, please remember to both like and subscribe if you are enjoying these UCL fantasy videos. Now, in terms of my transfer strategy this week, I have 3 free transfers, which means I've got quite a little bit of quite a bit of flexibility. I've also got 3 injuries, which isn't ideal. So these are my 3 potential transfer strategies in one scenario, and I think this is my favoured at the moment, one that I've been eyeing at for quite a while. I would be selling Salah, Housen, and also obviously Thuram. Now, I really like the look of Yamal. It looks like he played 60 minutes in his most recent league match, which is good. He got an assist. I think he's returned in all but 2 of his matches since the start of last season now. So I think he's got a good fixture as well. He's playing Olympiacos at home. He's a good captaincy option as well. I think there's going to be a lot of shuffling about in the premium among the premium strikers over the next few weeks. So having Yamal in for 2 really, really good Barcelona fixtures could be quite handy, especially if he's a captaincy option as well. Now I've also got Burn. I think Burn seems to be in almost all of my transfer strategies. There aren't a lot of great defenders with good long-term fixtures like Burn. He feels nailed in the Newcastle backline. Newcastle have kept 5 clean sheets in the Premier League. They also kept the clean sheet away to USG. So I think buying into the Newcastle defence is a good idea, and I think Burn is obviously a set piece threat as well. I also like Bukima at Napoli. Napoli have got good fixtures as well. I think he's 4.5 million, both, nice and cheap. Napoli have good long-term fixtures as well. Just slightly more convinced about Burn's long-term minutes than Bukima. So Burn seems to be in every transfer strategy. And then that top one, Victor Osimhen, a player I've bigged up for a while now. Don't think that you can't cover the premium strikers, because I covered Haaland with Thuram, and I think that Victor Osimhen could cover all 3 of those premiums, especially Haaland for the next few rounds. At Galatasaray, I've got great long-term fixtures. Osimhen is on pans. He's only 7.5 million, 3 million cheaper than Haaland. So you could actually get a premium midfielder and, have Osimhen. And that's what I've done with Yamal. So my second transfer strategy is obviously involves different players apart from Burn. Burn is still there, but in this scenario, it would basically mean downgrading Salah to Kevin De Bruyne, a player I've been eyeing at for some time now. As mentioned, Napoli have fantastic long-term fixtures. KDB is on pans with Lukaku out until next year. He got 2 assists in his latest match, but selling Salah for KDB would give me the funds to get Haaland. Now Haaland has been pretty relentless. Yes, I have covered him with Turan, but is covering Haaland sustainable? I'm not too sure. He's also a good captaincy option for Tuesday. So both of those 2 top transfer strategies are my favourite at the moment. Now, also have to take into account that Elise and Kane go into a tough run of fixtures ahead of match day 4. So if I could roll a transfer, that would be ideal. And the bottom scenario kind of does give me that. Just selling Thuram and Housen and bringing in Burn and Osimhen gives me a free transfer. The only issue with that, it doesn't give me a standout captaincy option on Tuesday outside of like Gordon and a couple of other players. It didn't give me Yamal or Haaland, so I think I'm less likely to do that one. I really, really like the top two, though. So let's now take a look at how my team would look with one of those plans implemented in. So this is what my matchday free team would look if I implemented the top transfer strategy that we just highlighted there. It would involve obviously having Osimhen in, bringing in Dan Burn and Yamal in midfield. Now, in this scenario, I would actually captain Yamal on the Tuesday. We get the lineup for Barcelona. We can see if he start. Obviously, if he's not starting, that will revert me back to my second transfer strategy of Haaland, Kevin De Bruyne and Burn in. But the moment I really like this, I do genuinely think that Osimhen could cover Haaland for the next few weeks, or all the other premium strikers at 7.5 million. Obviously, doing so would allow me to bring in Yamal. Now, I just think also having premium midfield coverage, so Yamal, can get to Salah, I can get to Palmer, I can get to Saka. Having the flexibility, to have a premium midfielder there stuck in just in case I wanted to swap him around eventually, I think it could be really, really vital. And I'm not sure when I'm playing the wild card yet. I've been quite flexible in terms of, when I'm going to play my chips, and I intend to continue that flexibility. If I need to use it next week, then fine, I will. But if not, I will continue to kind of use transfers and kind of manage my squad. But this is, again, how my team could potentially look going into this week. You can see that I haven't replaced Bellanova. I don't really intend to replace two defenders with my free transfers. I think, again, I mentioned earlier in the video, there doesn't seem to be many clean sheet opportunities this week. So I think spending two free transfers on two defenders, it just feels like a waste. So I don't mind having 14 players going into this week. I think a lot of other people will have 14 or less, or be replacing those cheap budget defenders with other defenders who probably won't do that well. So for me, very happy to have only 14 players this week. Now, I'm not sat on this transfer strategy. I could easily, revert to Haaland, Kevin De Bruyne and Burn. Obviously, Burn is in both scenarios, so it would be Kevin De Bruyne and Haaland. So that is me for Matchday 3. Remember, if you did enjoy that video, please like and subscribe, and I'll see you guys again soon.